Hi guys, welcome back to Trail Talk for our Christmas show. Great to see you guys. It's like the gang is back together. How's everyone doing? Troy, what about you?
I'm good, man. I'm enjoying the end of the year kind of vibes. We were talking, it's cold here in Nashville, so putting on all the things and still trying to get the miles in. So
Well, good to see you back with us. Chrissy, how's things with you?
Kind of in a similar place, like in that transitional season out of the way, trying to figure out that dual training of, run ultra training and skimo and waiting for more snow.
And Ricky, I know we've got to work through this today so you can get out for your run. How are you keeping it?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still training away, no races, but I'm training away. I want to hit a certain amount of mileage for the year, so that's the goal. I'm not telling you what it is until I hit it, so got to stay motivated some way.
I just want to add, I'm 100 miles behind my goal, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. So anyway,
100 miles, man. You have loads of time. What are you talking about? Loads
3
of
weeks.
time.
I only got to average like 80-mile weeks for the next 3 weeks to make it.
You could do that, and then you will have achieved your goal, and you go into the new year with an injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, it's. I forgot about goals long ago, but it's good to be running again. So, Ricky, how's your Instagram notifications going? Mine are thankfully on Do Not Disturb now because
Yeah.
with the launch of the Trail Talk Christmas giveaway, things are kind of blowing up. Have you looked at it yet?
Yeah, I just managed to flick on when I got back from work, and there's a lot of comments, there's a lot of likes, there's a lot of shares, so I'm looking forward to seeing it after this now. Yeah, it's deadly. It's
I
brilliant.
want to know how many followers you gain out of this because I reckon most of the people that see that post already follow me anyway, so I think you could be the net winner here. But here, who cares? Some great prizes from shoes, sunglasses, belts, socks, head torches, you name it. Like basically a bit of everything and multiple items. So for the viewers, it's running until the 27th of December. So head over to Instagram and check out the post, and you'll be in with a chance to win something too. So anyway, on with the show.
And
We've got a
follow me.
special. Yeah, well, I mean, they're not going to win anything if they don't follow you. So on with the show, and we've got a fun one. A couple of polls or question boxes on Instagram. Favorite athletes of 2024 and favorite brands of 2024, and got an absolute ton of responses on this. But we'll kick off with athletes, and the criteria we're going with is achievement, content, community, and X factor or vibes or whatever. Like that, something that just that little bit of magic, whatever it is. So, who wants to kick us off? Troy, what about you? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Obviously we'll go ladies first. So I mean, for me, I have two. I have an honorable mention, but I think the main person for me was Tara and Mr. Dower, what she did with the ATFKT. Besides the fact that she won, she raised over $100,000 for Girls on the Run. She set a phenomenal FKT, and she's like the lone wolf at the top of the FKT pyramid there. I mean, and she proved your boy Scott Jurek wrong because she did it in ultras, and as far as I know, her Achilles is still intact. So, I'm no longer an ultra fanboy, but I did think it was quite interesting that Tara could go the distance there, 42 days, 2,800 miles, something like that, and get it done faster than anyone else. And then my honorable mention is,
hold on. We need to dig into this a little bit. We need a little bit more airtime than 90 seconds on Troy's return to the show. So we've ticked off maximum points, whatever the scale is on achievements. Massive achievement. Biggest FKT in the States, you would say, right? One of the biggest, most prominent globally. What about the other criteria? Content, community, vibes. Like whenever I was thinking about Tara, because that's something that people on Instagram were feeding back, I thought, well, yeah, didn't she like vlog or record videos throughout the AT and then post it afterwards?
yeah, her content is great. For one, the amount of many people showed up to make content like around her. I think the community vibe for me, it hits home because she's a WNC girl, you know, she's a Western North Carolina kind of raised individual, and the fact that she brought the FKT back to North Carolina was something that, at least from a community standpoint on my side of the pond, I really appreciated. But no, her content is great. Her YouTube channel is great. And then, you know, she kind of hit a big splash. Everyone wanted to have her. Everyone wanted to have conversations with her, you know, and I think she brought an interesting take to it, because I mean, everyone kind of wants to give it to their crew, but she really gave it to her crew, as far as like, they were really, I think her analogy was like, I'm just the race car and they're the pit crew, and like, I'm just here to put miles on, and their job is to keep everything on track. And I think it's really cool how she was able to build a community within the community with her crew, and then ultimately like add a lot of value to the community, not just from her fundraiser, which I think Ultra also matched dollar for dollar, but, you know, to kind of show, I mean, the whole women can movement and here for the women's race and all that stuff. I mean, the ladies showed up strong this year with a lot of community outreach, and Tara, I feel like, is like the tip of the iceberg of that. So yeah,
big time on the community and sort of inspirational side of things. You know, the kind of the unlock that brings from her being at the top of the timesheet night for that is kind of, you know, uncalculable, I would say. Ricky, I'll come to you. Come on ahead, Chrissy.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more point to Tara Dower, because I'm guessing that nobody else has seen this yet at the time of recording, but she's refreshed a new multi-year deal with Ultra that they're speculating is the biggest payout for an ultra runner contract thus far. There's an article up, I think, on Outside, which I haven't read yet, but, you know, there was a lot of talk before of, hey, you know, Ultra should really, you know, support her for this. And I was kind of thinking, well, you know, they don't have a lot of budget. How are they going to do that? But they've gone and done it. So shout out to, you know, kind of both sides of that deal.
get that money, girl.
Yeah, and an unusual one, because you're throwing a big money contract at an FKT. It's not a race. It's not like there's nobody competing against her, like toe to toe, you know, on the start line, looking to get across the finish line. So I think that's really cool for a brand like Ultra to actually go all in and support their athlete. Like that's really cool.
But it is one of those things that this kind of blew up, and it's all about media attention, and the eyes are going to be on her next year. And isn't she doing Cocodona?
I don't know. I know she's high on the wait list in Hard Rock. So
for me, the female athlete that I thought bring it this year, and her content was cool, and I was very interested and intrigued. I'm not saying she won a ton, but she held herself really, really well in a new kind of a race, and that's Ollie Ostrander in the Golden Trail Series. I just thought that she was fun to follow. She was like, I don't know what you want to call it, a breath of fresh air. She was good crack. Her content was very funny. And I'm not huge into content creators or anything like that, as you know. Like I'm all about putting the work in and look, just getting it done, right? But she gets it done and makes some very, very good videos, some very, very funny stuff. But she puts in the work, like, and she shows up on the race line as well. And she had some brilliant finishes in the Golden Trail World Series. I think she finished in the top, I think she was first overall, something like that. But then she had a top 8 finish in Mammoth 26. She had some big, big finishes, big, big races. And I just really enjoyed following her this year. I just thought she was class, man.
Yeah, she is a good follower. Her content's fun. That's definitely one of her unique selling points is her humor and also the fact that she's fast as fuck. And it was nice seeing her progression all year. I was chatting throughout the year with one of the people in the community, Lee, about this. And, you know, it was just cool seeing her start in the Golden Trail. And there was like a few kind of missed starts. And then she got going. And then just through the year, you know, it was like 10th or 8th. And she just steadily got better and was just chipping away. And I am excited to see what she can do in that series next year. Do you think where do you think her potential is?
Yeah, I definitely think she can do way better. She's only finding her feet. You know, she's only really figuring out how to like run uphill like the best runners in the world are running uphill. And she's already very good on the flat and very good at descending. But once her uphill gets stronger, I think she'll be like way higher up in that. Like, and she's still very, very young. Lots to come. Another thing I really like about her is her YouTube videos are brilliant because she goes through her races and it's like step by step, kilometer by kilometer, you know, and it's you learn by watching her. Like I'm even like going, yeah, and she said I felt like pushing here, or I felt like holding back here, I was hanging back here because I didn't trust myself on this climb and I didn't really know, but then I knew I had, you know, it's just fun to follow her. And I just think for any up and coming trail runners or anything like that, you learn so much from watching her videos. She's badass. She's badass.
Yeah. So achievements, progression through the Golden Trail, content, top marks, community, low marks, although she's very supportive of like mental health and eating disorders and things like that. So I guess she communicates that through her content, and she does have a bit of a vibe. So yeah, I think that's a good one. And interesting, no one on Instagram mentioned that. Out of the 100 or so responses, nobody mentioned Ali Ostrander's name. So you got a good one, Ricky. Go ahead, Chrissy.
I was gonna say I got some mentions for her.
Go ahead, Ricky. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, but it's a good job my number one female is a good number one, because I just have to say that on the, let's say, the vibe on the men's side, not so hot that we'll get to later on. I just think that there's nobody as cool as some of these chicks. The guys aren't just doing it as good as the chicks at the minute, I don't think. Chrissy, over to you.
All right, we want my pick out there.
Go for it.
All right, so you're gonna be maybe disappointed in me because I'm going for the silent killers this year. So I'm going Rachel Drake, and it's not just that she just crushed the sub 6 hour mark at JFK, but we're looking at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 firsts this year, a fourth and an eighth. Western States was her 100-mile debut. She came out in eighth after getting that golden ticket at Black Canyon. Her versatility, you know, she started the year with the potential to run the U.S. marathon trials, and she opted to go trails instead and go all in on that golden ticket. So her versatility of speed and mountain, while also being a new mom, being, you know, really deep in her medical training, moving a couple states over this year. And I think also the respect that she gets from the rest of the women's field and internally in the trail running community speaks miles that she, you know, she doesn't have to overcompensate with maybe all of the marketing of herself, because everybody kind of knows she is one of those hard workers, determined, passionate runners in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. It's not an exciting pick, but Rachel is so fast. Like, she was just able to turn up at Mammoth, not training for that type of stuff. And she was like, what was she, fifth or something?
Fourth, yeah.
Fourth?
Yeah.
And it was like really close as well. Like, that was just an unbelievable performance. And then JFK thing. So achievements, she's way up here. I would love to see her racing internationally because she's fast. But, you know, you need that to solidify your kind of reputation. You need to go against the best. And if you're just racing nationally, you're not kind of getting that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she can only dedicate maybe 1 or 2 international races a year. You know, she did early in the year, she did a Hong Kong race, which, you know, less competitive. I would call the Mammoth race, you know, probably the most internationally competitive race that she's done this year. And hopefully, you know, as her career and her kind of motherhood progresses, she'll be able to kind of get back to like the UTMB type races and continue to diversify internationally.
Achievements, tick. Content, community. What have we got on community? You had this criteria, so you know we're not letting you off the hook too easy. What's the community buzz here?
You know, I think what I was saying before is that I think, you know, within the trail community, you know, when you put the social media aside, I think she is very well respected. I think she does a lot, you know, obviously she was in the Portland community before, really helping to build up a really strong women's contingent over there. You're now looking at the Salt Lake city community and kind of the move out there. So I think that she's got some work to do on kind of building up that community and not just kind of being in the little internal group that is kind of the Salt Lake badasses. But there's a lot of opportunity with, you know, women of the Wasatch and stuff like that over there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll let you off with that. I can't believe I got this free ticket. Like, how has nobody picked Jasmine Paris?
She was a close second for me.
It was either going to be Ricky or you that were going to pick it, so I wasn't going to touch
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so we had a smart pick there from Chrissy. All right. Well, Jasmine Paris was also the most popular pick on Instagram. Obviously, achievement, tech, first ever. I mean, first ever. That's has to be the biggest achievement of the year. From she could be ultra runner of the year, she could be trail runner of the year, she could be whatever. She could be number one in all of those things. I think it's amazing that she did this with kind of no fanfare in last year's shoes that she ran it the year before in. So like, what an example she's setting by like doing it in this kind of style. I mean, community wise, there's nothing there, other than like the Barkley thing, and I don't really think there's much on the community side. And there's no X factor with Jasmine either, but the achievement just ranks so far above everything else. It's just hard to deny. Troy, any comments on Jasmine?
Well, she does do that work with the green runners, and like it's a small kind of community based outreach, but her commitment to environmentalism and sustainability, I think, is also speaks very highly for her on that community side of things. Obviously, like when you run in the same pair of innovates like 3 years in a row or something like that, you're definitely pushing the envelope on the sustainability and the durability side. But yeah, I mean, I think she was definitely a close second for me. Like you said, first time, when you shatter that glass ceiling, I'm excited to see what comes next with with Barkley and who can kind of like follow in her footsteps now that she's kind of opened the door. Obviously, I think it'll be a while because not everyone finishes every year. It doesn't matter what, it really depends on the year of the event, but I'm interested to see what happens now in the future with that event because of what she accomplished.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like Tara Dyer. This type of achievement brings a level up. It's doable. Go for it.
If you gave out to Chrissy 2 minutes ago about the criteria, is this your number one? Because if this is your number one, then you cheated. Because I would have said, and I think all of us would have said, female ultra runner or athlete of the year would have been Jasmine out of sheer performance, but it wasn't based on sheer performance. Correct?
But there's no winner.
I'm not saying it's a winner, but you can't, you're after picking Jasmine because she blew the doors off Barkley, but her content is zero and her community is zero. So how can you pick her at number one? I'm not saying it's winners and losers, but she can't win. She can't win.
Yeah, exactly. She can't win because there's no winners or losers. It's called an opinion, Ricky. You know how no opinions are wrong. They're just your own. That's where this falls in. Of course, the achievement is so high that it doesn't really matter. Those are just things to consider. Like if somebody was like on the content side, Ali Ostrander makes better content than she does race as in terms of results. So like that's a factor. I'm putting down the shovel and the spade and I'm not digging the hole any deeper. So other things that other athletes that the community fed back on, like Katie Scheid, after the course record performance at UTMB and the year that she's had and the streak that she's been on for a couple of years. Any comments on Katie, Ricky?
Katie, fantastic year. You know what I mean? Like she had an unbelievable year, and she smashed some serious races. She had unbelievable overall results, let alone in her own race and in her own gender. I mean, overall, she had an incredible year, and I'm super excited to see her go back and maybe race Courtney in UTMB. We all want to see that race, and honestly, I think that's a race that Katie Scheid is going to win because I think she's a much better, much more natural, fast runner than Courtney. But man, that's going to be the battle of all battles, isn't it? It's going to be so much fun if that happens. I really hope it does happen. And it's looking that way because she's not going back to Western States. which is very cool because that means I move up a spot. So the more people that keep not signing up to Western States, the better for me, and the better UTMB Katie's going to have if she's not going to do Western States. So very excited for that, yeah.
Yeah, topic for another show for sure. But interesting that you're siding on with Katie on that one. Troy, anything on Katie?
Well, I mean, that's hard to bet against it, right? She's like freaking Bitcoin of the female ultra running world. I think it's just her stock is going to keep climbing. I'm excited to see what she can do with the Hard Rock UTMB double, and the fact that it's a pretty focused, you can have a really focused block there, because you can kind of, it's not the same. UTMB is obviously a faster race, but they're both mountainous races. And then I just want to see Ruth, I want to see Courtney, and I want to see Katie all toe the line at UTMB. That's like, I'm here for the women's race in UTMB this year, because I think that's going to be like, if those three women show up healthy, they're going to turn each other inside out, and it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, good point. Chrissy?
Yeah, I mean, she was on my list as well. And, I think we're talking X Factor. I think she's, one of the few athletes who is an American but is globally recognized, not just because of living in France, but because she's really dedicated herself to pushing at the highest level.
Because she's got a French boyfriend.
Her content game is not, the best, but she lets
I like
her results speak for herself.
The two of them have some, like, they've got a good way about the humor. Like,
her and Serge, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. And she's an East Coaster as well. So from is she from New Hampshire? Or Maine or something?
Yeah, well, I know she spent all that time in the whites, in the huts, so she's from that area. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll skip over Courtney. Courtney did get some love in the comment box, but the other standout one was Tony McCann.
Yeah.
And she has, like, what I would say about Tony is she is on the road to be one of the best of the best. Like, she's a UTMB winner of the future. And it's people, were saying things like Inspirational return from injury. She had that injury in a bike crash and stuff. So she's had like a 2-year spell of, ups and downs. And then she's just come back and crushed it, course records. And I think, she's going to go into I think CCC next year as probably the favorite for that race as well. So I just think that she's deserving place on that, but no vibes. Anyone want to comment on Tony McCann?
I'll just say, like, to be the self-proclaimed 50K girl, to like stepping up, it's going to be exciting to watch her kind of grow into her 100-mile legs in the not too distant future, kind of like you said, Aaron. So
cool. Right, let's move on to the guys. Now, I don't want you to crucify me on this. I didn't really come here to win anything. This isn't a competition between me and you. We're not competing against each other. We're just chatting about the sport. All right. So I'm going to start off with the community picks this time, and then we're going to dig into it. All right.
So you're actually playing by the rules now.
I mean, I make the rules and I can tweak them as I go. So
yeah.
Like it or lump it. Hands down, the most votes on Instagram, David Roche. Like him, love him, whatever. The guy has had an amazing year racing in America. Super fast, like unbelievable. So, Chrissy, I'm going to come to you and get your take on the community winner here, David Roche.
Polarizing, I think, is how I sum it up. He obviously had an incredible 2 big 100-mile races, coming from a guy who, used to do a lot of short, fast 50K type stuff, and had kind of a few dull years, I would call it, since kind of starting a family. We can get into all the Let's Run forums that we want, but he's not for everyone, right? That's what I mean by polarizing. He's not a coach for everyone. Incredible physical achievements. What he's doing for the high carb side of the sport certainly is a good N of 1 case study, but he was not on my list.
Interesting. All right. Right, Ricky, we're going to come to you first and hear what you've got to say on the men's side. So over to you, and remember, you're not trying to win.
I don't think I'm, even if it was a competition, I don't think I'm going to win it, because content side of things, I don't think he's lighting it up. He's not lighting any fires up. And community vibes, yeah, he's probably a super nice guy. He is a super nice guy. I've met the guy. He's a really nice guy. But I just think for athlete of the year, for performances, for his own sort of like comeback, bounce back ability, whatever you want to call it, I went for Hayden Hawks because I'm a super fan and I just enjoyed watching him this year. I enjoyed watching him get injured and come back from an injury and blow the doors off everybody at Canyons. Like, that was just incredible to see him go out so hard. And like, it was high risk,
Black Canyon.
Yeah, Black Canyons, but I always call it that, yeah? Like, come on, you all know that, right? But it's like, oh yeah, it's
Deja
Canyons.
vu.
Well, the other one is Canyons endurance run. So do you have to say that as well if you're going to say that, like?
Well,
Black
technically,
Canyon 100K.
it's Black Canyon, not plural, and then it's Canyons.
Well,
plural.
the one that Hayden Hawks won and set the course record on, that's the one I'm talking about. The one that I'm talking about is the one that Hayden Hawks won, okay? So I was just super excited to see him come back from that and then go to States and have a brilliant race at States and then go over and do CCC and do exactly what he did in CCC. So for me, Hayden gets the number one vote for me because just another massive year. And again, super excited to see where he goes from here, what he's going to do next year, what his plans are. Is he still going to stick with something like CCC, or is he going to try the big dog, So I'm just looking forward to seeing what he does.
Minus vibes.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to argue with you there. I'm not, like, I'm definitely not. Like, I struggled. Honest to God, I struggled with vibes, let's say, with vibes and with good content coming out of the guys. I just struggled. I just found that the women were doing a lot more, much more exciting, much more, I don't know, much more community driven and getting everyone involved, if you know what I mean. So yeah, kudos to the ladies this time around.
Well, he gets plus points on the X Factor. Did he set a course record at CC, or he break his own course record at CCC with sand poles, right? The guy did it without poles. So like, that's kind of like, I guess extra kudos to him there on that one.
How could we ever forget? Because I'll loosely quote him in every interview that he did after UTMB. It was like, man, I could just run those hills, so I ran all those hills. I didn't need poles. How many times have you got to say this in an interview? But he's got a little bit of that kind of Tom Evans type of personality from an American West persona, if you know what I mean. It's like a combination of those two personalities. So he can't help himself. But yeah, I think he's a good guy. He's fast, zero vibes. But yeah, achievements are up there, and he had a great year. So look, Ricky, no winners or losers. So it was a good one. I'm going to come in with another community pick, and then Chris, you'll hear from you. Someone else that we were getting love from the community was Elisine El Zawi, the normal athlete, and just to sum it up, won nothing last year, won everything this year, and come into the season with a sponsorship. So he had an amazing year. Achievements are like off the charts. I don't need to go through all of the criteria. People were giving me names, and I'm just passing that one on. It's worth talking about. On the men's side in the short distance stuff, he kind of knocked it out of the park. Chrissy.
So my pick, I already alluded, you're not going to probably be happy with all the criteria, but is Rod Farvard. I think on the achievement scale, he took all the potential in the world that he had, and he leveled it up this year. He blew canyons out of the water, going hard the entire time, and it's, not for lack of competition either. He came back from an 11th at States last year to, come second to the current Western states, in Walmsley, cutting almost 2 hours off of his last year time, and with the third fastest time ever besides Walmsley. So what he's done physically, being able to translate his speed and strategy into racing results has been huge. What he's done nutritionally, finally kind of figuring his stuff out. I mean, he's been a huge factor in people like Vic also really blowing up this year. So I think helping the sport as a whole and the community as a whole, by doing the work and proving results. Yeah. And he's, got a huge contract this year, went from that kind of, the North Face development side to getting that big Hoka announcement, right during UTMB week. So that's my pick.
I think Hoka is a good brand for Rod because they kind of don't make any content around many athletes, and he just kind of wants to run and get paid to run and whatever, and so there's no real obligations there. But I really like how he bet on himself this year, and it paid off. So it's sort of inspirational and sets an example as well that if you bet on yourself and you go after it, good things can happen, and that's just a good metaphor for lots of things in life. Anything else in Rod?
I'm just gonna say I was gonna pick him. I was very close to picking him as well. I just thought he had a stellar year. Yeah, he was fantastic to watch. He was a good story to follow all year. Couple of big races, couple of big results. He was very close for me. Yeah, so good choice.
He didn't get any love on Instagram, but yeah, that also means nothing. Coming in with another community pick, Francesco Poopy.
Wow.
And he got a little bit of love, and it was basically based on for being a voice for trail running, I guess, sharing his opinion, whether we agree or not, or whether it's mildly cryptic or not. But yeah, I'm not a mad fan, but what do you think of that one, Ricky?
Yeah, okay, on the voice side, yeah. Results-wise, he had a great start to the year. Brilliant start. He'd first 3 months of the year, he was winning, he was killing it. He was breaking course records. He was doing really well over in America, and it looked like it was going to just keep going. Which is why I think his latest post on Instagram is really interesting, because he was saying something about being thankful for not being injured. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was injured for ages this year. After all that he won in America, he was injured. He was in the bin for about 2 or 3 months. So I found that an unusual post. But again, I do like him. I'm a fan. And he is a voice for other trail runners. He's good at giving out advice when it comes to contract season for athletes as well. And basically like Hayden Hawks as well. Hayden Hawks is very good at that as well. I remember listening to a podcast Hayden did, and he was basically saying, you got to bet on yourself, you got to back yourself, and you got to know your worth in this world. And Francesco's very good at doing that as well, I think, So yeah, I'm a fan.
I feel like his tone of voice comes from the same kind of school as the Green Runners. I think he means well, but sometimes the way he says something feels like he's trying to float something in the background, a little bit of mystery. So it doesn't really connect for me. But Troy, what do you think of Francesco?
I mean, to be honest, I'm just an American over here doing American things, and Francesco.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a couple podcasts he's on. I think he speaks really well. I listened to a recap. I think it was OCC that he did, and he had a pretty good race. And the way he talks about his other competitors and the grace that he has with the people around him in the sport, I think is really admirable. But at the end of the day, I don't really follow the guy all that much. I know he's definitely I kind of agree with you, Aaron. He's a bit cryptic in his messaging, I guess would be the easiest way to say it. But I also know he's one of the core OG founders of the PTRA, Pro. Yeah, did I say that right? I hope I said that right. And so it's he's giving, from a community standpoint, he's giving back in spades. And what he's building there to add value to athletes. And to Ricky's point, let them show their worth. Like, it really empower athletes to know their worth. I think that's even if he doesn't have another result in his legs, like, that's a real legacy to be able to lean on, especially where we sit in the sport right now, where I think things are moving up and to the right for the athletes as far as compensation goes. If you do know your worth. Yeah, I mean, besides that, like, I don't really know too much about the guy except for he's French, right?
No.
No, it's Italian.
See, there you go. Right, I'm just the dumb American in the room. So
A part well played. Well, Troy, on that note, let's hear from the dumb American. Who's your pick?
So my choice for my favorite male runner this year really comes from a place of what I dealt with and what my community here in Western North Carolina dealt with over the last couple months. I'm going with John Kelly. His results don't really shine this year. Obviously, he was one of the big 4 or 5, big 5 at Barkley this year to finish. I mean, his previous results speak for himself. He's a legend. I know he didn't really have the year he wanted at the Spine. I know he didn't have the year he wanted at Tour, but the man raised $40,000 with a GoFundMe through his Instagram community, spent every penny of that money to buy generators, heaters, and fuel for decimated community members, like very rural, isolated community members here in Western North Carolina, to give them much needed power and heat, and spent the 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene came in and just destroyed Appalachia, really giving back to the community in a meaningful way. And in doing so, like, compromised his training for Les Templiers and still managed to show up and run into like 11th place in the top. Yeah, you like the pronunciation. I did that right? And then managed to run like, I think, top American and not in the top 10, but was really close to the top 10. But at the end of the day, like, his content isn't exceptional. He's like very adamant about saying, like, kind of hate social media. It's like kind of a necessary evil for him. But from a community, I think what he's done from a very local community standpoint is, yeah, it's through the roof. And the selflessness that the guy has just really shined. And he's an amazing, legendary runner, but he's like a legendary human too. And that's kind of where it really hit home for me, what he was able to accomplish and do for the community here in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's a great pick, actually. And like, on the content front for John, he mightn't make any content of his own, but he was on that podcast that had like hundreds of thousands of views, talking to a non-ultra or trail running audience, which is just mad for the sport. Do you have any knowledge on how he was on that show?
I saw like some of the reels and stuff, because he posted it. No, I have no idea. I'm wondering if that's like a La Sportiva marketing plug, or maybe the guy like knows Barkley and wanted to have, like, because everyone knows about the movie, the race that eats its young. So maybe like he wanted, because there was a lot of like tongue in cheek, fun, like, I don't even, like, I don't like to run, I don't like to walk a mile. How do you run? Like all of the guy was like dropping all kinds of jokes. So I don't know if maybe it was just a situation where he wanted to bring that kind of content onto his podcast. I mean, selfish plug, I had John on my podcast. We talked for 2 minutes about his running. All we talked about is the work he did for Western North Carolina. And I will say, like, I think him on my podcast was a much better episode than whatever podcast you're talking about. I have no idea.
I think everyone that listens to this show also listens to your Mid-Packer pod, Troy, so they probably already know that. And there's no shame in that plug. I think that's a great pick. Achievements, content via third party, community. It's maybe one of the strongest picks across the board. And then vibes, it's like minus vibes. But he has that kind of monotone voice, and he's sponsored by La Sportiva, so he has to wear their stuff. That stuff's not cool either. But yeah, no, that's a great pick. A couple of other community picks. Ludo Pomeroy, course record at Hard Rock, just before his 49th birthday. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. He actually does have a bit of humor about him on his social media and stuff, which is good. It's obviously French and stuff, so doesn't have that wider appeal. And if you're 48, 49, should I say this? You probably don't have great vibes. Potential for vibes is lower. Maybe that's the best way to say that. Vibe potential is trending down. But
well, I mean, he's an air traffic controller part-time, so his vibes can't be that great, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that was a good one. And then another one before I unleash mine to the audience was Ireland's Gav Hannigan. Had quite a few people pitch in about Gav Hannigan, who for you guys, he's like an Irish adventurer, lives in Chamonix. He rode across the Atlantic from America to Ireland, or was it the other way around? No, he finished in Ireland. He's won the Iditarod race in Alaska, pulling the sledge, and he's actually going back. He's probably 2 months out from the race.
11 weeks or something. Yeah,
is it 1,000 miles or 1,000
1,000 miles? 1,000 miles. Yeah,
1,000 miles pulling the sled, and his mum recently diagnosed with Parkinson's, so he's raising money for Parkinson's disease research, which is great. So check out Gav Hannigan on Instagram, follow his training, and maybe throw a donation there as well, which is a great cause.
A little bit crazy too. I mean, I know he does some crazy things, but he's a little bit off the charts as well. You know what I mean? He's got a wild sense of humor. He's good crack. He's good fun, and yeah, it's a good pick. Good pick.
We're all a wee bit crazy. That's why we're doing this. But yeah, Gab's running 1,000 miles in Alaska, so it's a different level of crazy than me. So my pick, right? Achievements, good achievements, great achievements, content off the charts, community. The guy really knows how to. He just has a lot of people that are inspired by like the work ethic and the grit.
Are you picking Goggins?
I'm picking Ireland's Goggins. I'm picking. Ricky is my favorite athlete of 2024, and I can tell you, you were not top of my list whenever I was going through this, but see the love that you got on Instagram. I was like, yeah, this makes total sense based on the criteria, because you were second in the list of 100 or so responses behind David Roach. So Ricky Wynn is my favorite athlete of 2024. And,
keep showing up.
Yeah, that's it.
Except I do terrible content. It's terrible.
You're just motivating people by getting out there and doing the shit you need to do. And people are like, fuck, if he can do it, I can do it.
The journeyman, man. The journeyman work ethic is real.
Wow, I'm moved. I'm genuinely moved. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a nice way to finish off the year with that. Yeah, I'll take that.
And I'll buy you a coffee and a bun in 2 weeks' time, whenever we meet up in the Mourne Mountains for a run and the Trail Talk group run. So let's move it on, guys, to favorite brands of 2024. Trail, obviously. And the guide that we put out on Instagram was, it doesn't have to be all of these things. Ricky, you hearing? It doesn't have to be all of the criteria, but things to consider: a campaign, athlete roster, sponsorships, community, race results, shoes, apparel, whatever it may be. So I'll kick off with a couple of things from the community, and then maybe Chrissy, you can come in after that. So surprisingly, the top response from on Instagram was Hoka, which was kind of a surprise for me. And I wasn't expecting it. And so much so that like some people were just, I love it whenever people write the Hoka or whatever the brand is and a why, instead of leaving it up to me to go, why? Like some people would put in Nike, and I didn't even message those people to ask them why. But so many people put in Hoka, and then some of the other things they were given more of an explanation. It was the activation of about the tecton at UTMB and how that went. And then one of the other themes was the fact that Vincent Boullard won UTMB out of nowhere, helped design the shoe, and was wearing all the kit, and is not a sponsored runner. So like that's obviously created so much of a story around the Hoka pick. Kind of like not a fun one, but I can't lie. That's what the majority of people come back and said their favorite brand of 2024 was Hoka. It's like if we were in a game show and someone said that was the response, you're like, The wrong answer. But
Well,
I
they
don't know.
would be they would be the number one pick on Family Feud, you know. If you had to pick, like, they are ubiquitous in trail, right? They sponsor all the races, they throw money around like no one else does. So if you look at it from like impressions versus dollars spent, it would make sense that they would come out on top, even on like a very small sample size from a polling standpoint. So
Yeah, and I think one of the other factors is, if I go back 13 months ago, whenever Trail Talk started, a lot of the audience were people that liked more core brands that I would be into, like Normal and Norda and stuff like that. And as it's grown and as more of Ricky's fans have come over, we get a lot more views from people who are at a different place in the running journey than where I would be. So I think that's a product of that, and just Hoka are so big now that they're like the trail brand for some people. They just get into trail and it's like Hoka they are the thing.
Exactly. Like it is. It's most people that are getting into trails for the first time. It's Speedgoat. Because that is it. It's the number one selling trail shoe on the planet, guys. Like, the brand awareness is huge right now, and like, like would say when I start wearing it back in like 2015, 2016, nobody knew who they were, and now everybody knows who Hoka is. Hoka's like, you've Nike, Adidas, Hoka. That's the way it is now. And it will be very soon, it will be Nike and then Hoka. They'll be that big, like, so it's growing all the time. But again, they are sponsoring some big races, sponsoring the UTMB World Series. So you're going to see them everywhere. You're going to see them at Western States. You're going to see them at all the big races, at all the big dances. And they bring it, they bring it really well. When they do something, they do it well. When they do any of their activation or anything like that, it's done really well. It's done at a pretty high level, and it's they have a good marketing team behind them,
Yeah, Chrissy, let's hear from you. Who's your pick for favorite brands of 2024?
I am going to go brands, but it's only because my first one's kind of a special consideration. It's not what you would traditionally think of as a brand, but we've kind of already mentioned it a few times today, and it's here for the women's race. The way that they've gone from, kind of being a focus group in PTRA to being, almost synonymous with women's fields and trail running. The visibility that they've grown in one short year, the fact that they've, taken that and they've now got $25,000 in grant money that's going to go towards both women's stories in trail, as well as kind of women being in media in trail, both, written, video, photo. When you're talking about what they're doing for the community, what they're doing campaign wise, the people behind it. I mean, there's nothing like it right now, I don't think, that's doing what they're doing for the sport. So that's kind of a special mention for me. But my more traditional brand pick, and somebody else might have this as well, is
Ultra. No? Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Just because I wear them doesn't mean I think that they're doing the best in the sport. No, yes, it's Adidas TORQ. I mean, I think we've seen this for a few years. Their roster of athletes is very team oriented, very focused, but they're all, doing incredible things, and they're all doing them on a pretty global scale. Most of this, there might be some that are kind of moving from more like the US national side into the global scale. But I mean, you mentioned any of the athlete names and people know who they are. People know their performances for this year. And they do a really good job taking that team dynamic, bringing it to, a few focus races per year, doing exceptional campaigns around that. So I think they check a lot of boxes for a brand in the sport, not to mention they've had a lot of, really well-received feedback on the Agravic Speed Ultra being one of the best super shoes in trail running. So from all sides, I don't see them, missing right now.
I think that's I'll get you in a minute. I think that's actually a very well-rounded pick. Whenever I look at the guide on that and the criteria, they're kind of like ticking the box and everything. Like they had the first trail super shoe, the ankle breaker, racing, like Tony McCann, Dan Jones, I could name about 10 athletes. Eli Hemming, all of these guys are just crushing it. Community. Their YouTube channel has actually got pretty good. There's a few hit and miss things because it's kind of like broad strokes. But when I was on the bike trainer earlier on, I watched a video they just dropped on crewing, and it was really cool. I really enjoyed that. It's like 15 minutes long. I definitely recommend checking that out. Sponsorships, they've taken on new races. They sponsored the live stream at Ultra Trail Cape Town just last month. And yeah, like I wonder what we're going to see from them next year, because they've got like such a wide base now of good quality everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. There will be a few athlete changes, I expect. So I'm curious kind of what kind of moves they'll make and what they'll do next.
Anything you want to speculate on?
Only problem is it's not Adidas. It's Adidas TORQ. So it's like you opened it with Adidas, and then I was thinking Adidas, but then when you said TORQ, then you're going, yeah, it's the one brand, but it's not the one brand, right? It's like Adidas TORQ is so much cooler than Adidas. TORQ are doing some amazing things, but Adidas, I think, are really boring. But Adidas TORQ.
Well, I think they are quite separate.
Yeah, it's intentional.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Adidas are actually killer, and so are TORQ. So, I mean, shut up, Pokemon.
I want to add one thing, and it's just back to like the team dynamic. The range of their athlete roster is legit. They're not just like, oh, we're 100-mile focused or we're short trail focused. Like they have legit killers in every distance category across trail and ultra, which I think is also, which I think it just speaks to what they're trying to accomplish with their team. And like, I don't know, I don't know a lot of the individual team members, but I like, no one's mad about being on an Adidas contract. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No.
What I love about that team is it's totally global, but it definitely it's leans to ultra.
Yeah.
You don't think of TORQ and the Golden Trail series, so is that an area that they can build out?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's
you
a good
have
point.
you have a few, right? You have Eli and Tabor and Danny to an extent.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
Tony is shorter traditionally.
but it feels like Eli is moving more like to the shorter ultra distance now, and so he's not going to be great at a 20K, 25K, and it's lighter. We're trying to pull names, and there's not a massive list of them. Troy, who have you got?
Okay, I'll be quick. I have 3, and the first 2 will be very quick.
Just
Go ahead.
give me the 2, and then you can come back to the third after. So
Okay.
give me your 2 quick ones.
Yeah, so my big hitter is Norda. Like, I think it's funny because if for anyone who's been around Trail Talk for a long time, I was the guy getting a lot of grief early on for still running it in ultras, and no disrespect to anyone here that runs in ultras. I was introduced to the brand this year, and like I have 2 pairs of 001s. One of them have 1,000 miles on them. I can still run in them. They're like ready to be retired. I have another pair that have like over 750 miles on them. I ran all of my long runs, and I ran all 4 of my ultras this year in those events. I mean, sorry, those events in that one pair of shoes. And I've never done that in my life. Like I've never had a pair of shoes that can just like go quote unquote the distance. And they're not for everybody, but they fit my foot really, really well. They work really well for me. And then, they're like, for me, the 005 is probably the most anticipated shoe of the year. And the way they've kind of like slowly but steadily teased that one out, like dropped some really cool content around UTMB, and then like steadily just kind of built that momentum. Obviously, I think that shoe was a big buzz at TRE this year, and it doesn't drop till next year. But for me, that brand, it checks all the boxes for me as far as like what it does for my foot, the durability and the sustainability side of the brand, and then like from a brand side, like I feel like they're doing that inclusive exclusivity thing very, very well, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to do it either. Like the way they position the brand in the market, like it really resonates. So yeah, that's like, yeah, go, yeah, after you, sir.
You said it was going to be quick. No, Norda's a good one, and how dare you for picking that in front of me? But like, great point. And I kind of just want to touch on what you were saying there. It feels like if we jump back maybe 1-2+ years ago, people would have looked at Satisfy and Norda and thought they're from the same kind of bubble.
Mm.
You know, you would see people wearing Nordas and Satisfy apparel. And I think what I've seen over the past 12 months is the two brands kind of, I mean, they're obviously totally separate, but the feel of the brands is different. Like Norda, their 005 activation at UTMB felt like it was nothing but respectful. It didn't get in the way. Whenever we heard about, you know, the commentators talking about, you know, brands coming and pitching up this, that, and the other and not paying to be at the salon in Chamonix and stuff, I don't feel like that was really directed at Norda. And I just think they've got like a respectful tone, and they let the shoe do the talking, and the shoe is great. It's not all marketing, whereas a lot of what Satisfy is doing, yeah, some of the stuff's really good, but it's also mega hype.
Mm.
The Norda stuff isn't built on hype. The Satisfy stuff is all built on hype.
100%. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, because I would have said Norda are the Satisfy of run that actually work, as in performance. I don't mean, no, I love Satisfy gear, yeah, I do, but I think a lot of it is hype, and I like the hype. I enjoy the hype, and I think they're a super cool brand. But performance, Norda are banging out really good shoes, you know, and they do it in a very subtle way. They're still super niche. Like, there's a lot of people on here that mightn't even know who Norda are. Like, there's a lot of people in Ireland that don't know the brand, you know, and they're just so niche. They're so cool. Their social media, I think they do a great job on that. Every time I see one of their posts or their stories, I'm like, man, I love everything they do. I just think they're a super cool brand. You know, like, I'm a Hoka man, but man, am I a Norda fan. I'm a big Norda fan, yeah.
And that's why I said the inclusive exclusivity, right? Like, I think Satisfy is like, we are the too cool for school kids. Norda is like this thing where everyone can get behind the brand, but like, you are kind of a part of this like really cool niche brand that's doing like really exceptional things in the space, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's they're not trying to be cool. They just ended up like being cool. It's all built on quality.
And now I'm cool. And that's what's great about it. Now I'm cool by de facto, because I used to be just one of those like American yuppies wearing ultras, you know? So
from the ground to the ankles, you're cool as fuck. I'm only joking. All right, let's hear some of the community picks. Quite a lot of people coming up with normal and citing it based on the potential of what the Kai bikes could do for as a pillar for sustainability. I'm not sure. I think also the Kai bikes has the potential to be a real failure for normal. You know, we had a guy, Ari, testing the Kai bikes, and he didn't like it at all. He just said, well, it was really awkward changing the sole, and I like the bouncy sole, so I just kept the bouncy sole in. But because the sole is changeable, the volume of the upper is always different. And not someone else in the community had said, I'm kind of looking forward to the Kai bikes, because instead of like having a change of shoe at a midpoint in a race for a more runnable section, or feet are getting tired, I maybe just swap out the midsole. But the feedback from Ari was, look, the midsole is a real crock to change. Like, I would never change it. And I've actually heard this from a few other people as well about the Kai bike. So time will tell. I think we're probably going to know in the next 2-3 months whether that's going to be successful for them or not.
The problem with what you just said about the room in your feet, if you change out your insole for a more cushioned ride in an ultra, more than likely you want to change out your feet because your feet are swollen, your toes are mashed, and you want more space. You put the big insole in, You've no space.
So just to clarify, Aaron, like the stack height is actually different with the 3 insert. It's not like the inserts aren't the same height, and it's just different foam compounds. There's actually like millimeter difference in stack height when you change the insoles.
Completely different volume. Yeah, inside the
Interesting.
shoe.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's a miss.
Yeah. Look, it's Ari's finished testing the shoes. He put in mad distance into these shoes in like a month, Ari. But
yeah, he's 100-mile a week guy. So
yeah. So he shipped the shoes over to me, so be able to feel them and like do some videos about taking the insoles in and out and see like maybe time what that's going to be like. So we're shoe nerds over here. So
yeah.
Let's see. I'll throw out another community pick and get your feedback on it. So the North Face, and actually this is a good one because Ari's been banging on about the North Face for over a year, and I have to tend to agree. Like they're not cool. But they have been making bold statements with their kit releases every summer. The big bold blue one this year, and then on the shoe front, gone are the days whenever it was the Debo North Face shoe, which everyone says was an absolute stinker. But the Ultimesa 500, the Vective Pro, everyone just raves about these shoes. I've not run in them. Like, I don't have the capacity to add those into the mix. But a lot of people were saying TNF, like, most improved over the past couple of years, like, best. That's their favorite brand. So, Chrissy, what do you think on the TNF?
Yeah, that was kind of on my list of considerations. I think most improved just in this year. I wouldn't say over multiple years. I would say the shoe lineups that they've solidified this year have put them in contention, not to mention we're now seeing North Face athletes actually perform very well. You're not just talking about Katie Scheid, but there are a handful of athletes that you're seeing results from. You don't expect to see North Face at the top of Western States. I mean, that's crazy. The blueberry outfit aside, I think next summer's kit is going to be better. Fingers crossed that they stick with it. But yeah, I would agree with that community pick.
This is maybe the third time that you have teased that you know more than us. What are you going to tell us about this kit? Come on.
I know
give us something.
that they did a better job. It's a different artist, right? They have a pattern, and this time the pattern is also going to be on the shirt. So it's not just going to be kind of like the drip thing on the shorts and the color matching on the top. There's going to be a bit more interesting going on. So it sounds pretty cool from the North Face guys.
Color-wise?
That I didn't get.
Orange.
It sounded like maybe there's multiple colors, but I don't know.
So Ricky just said he's going to bring back his orange mud vest so we can wear the North Face orange kit next year. So I just want to say the North Face, I think I didn't get a chance to say it when we were talking about Rod, but like TNF really messed up there. Like I think they should have offered him FU money to stay with them so that he wouldn't go to another, because that like the headhunters were out as soon as he was second place at Western States. Like brands are going to be like really offering him not the world, but like a really great contract. And the fact that TNF had him on like, you mentioned it, Chrissy, he's on like their like up and comer contract, and they didn't just like scoop him up and offer him something worth taking. I think that was a huge miss on their part. But
yeah, and I mean they also pretty quickly lost Helen Mina Faulkner to Hoka as well. So that whole kind of development team system they had, especially under all their old shoes, was a big miss.
Yeah, like why have a development team? It's like the NBA has a G League to bring people up to the pro rosters, not to trade them off to other teams because like they got them good and developed them, So anyway, yeah.
But it's a strange sport to have a development team because they're still competing against all of the other athletes. It's not like, Chrissy, you'll love this. It's not like, a Formula 1 team and they have their up and comers in Formula 2 or Formula 3. There's like a progression, and it's not like the TNF could have athletes in the Golden Trail who are going to step up to, Western States or UTMB, because the athletes themselves might aspire to, I want to do a 100-miler. I want to get, but they don't know when that's going to happen. So it's a hard sport to have a development team, because if development teams just sounds more like the less
Free
experienced
marketing.
people,
It's
and
the
that's not Rod.
It's the free marketing team.
Yeah.
It's the free, that's what it is. A development team, it's the free marketing team. Hey, we're going to give you maybe a very small travel stipend and some clothes and gear, and you're going to race for us. And if you do good, we look good. And if you do bad, who cares? You're just on the development team.
No athletes should be on gear deals in 2024. That should not be a thing. I'm the sort of person that should be on a gear deal, not somebody that can win a race.
You can't eat the shoes.
You can't eat the shoes. There we go. Okay. I'm going to come in with last community pick and also my backup pick, because like I was all for the Norda love, but I also had a lot of love for this brand, who I think have done a great job. They started the year off by taking over sponsorship of the Skyrunner World Series. They released Skyrunner specific shoes the past couple of years, the long Sky and the Skyfire, and they also kind of knock it out of the park on GOREWEAR as well. Like they've got good style, they've got good shoes. They're sponsoring my favorite series, the Skyrunner series, and I also like the diverse picks on their athlete roster. Yeah, we've had this discussion last year about this. Kind of at one point, it looked like, are they just going to pick like minority athletes? But actually, now that a year has passed, they've filled that roster out with a selection of interesting people with diversity and performance. So I'm picking Merrell as my favorite brand of the year, and they did get quite a bit of love on Instagram as well. Who wants to chip in on Merrell?
I just remember I used to hike a lot in their shoes 20 years ago. That's all I know. I mean, I know very little about I know that they've made a big splash in trail running, but like I just know them as like this outdoor brand that makes apparel that you wear around town and go hiking on trails in.
You're not exposed to the same things as me. So you're like, I'm saying Merrell, and you're like saying, I know, like a catalog from 10 years ago, like fleeces or something. Fleeces,
and I don't know.
And I like,
yeah, basically.
Chrissy, what do you think of Merrell?
Well, I'm just surprised you left the Olympics out of that talk about the brand.
Why? What about it?
Well, just we have talked previously about their push trying to get trail running in the Olympics, and then kind of being the group or the brand that's kind of behind that push, which we, in the past have felt like is an interesting match, as they're not, one of the bigger, heavier lifting brands in the sport.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that they knocked it out of the park on all fronts. I wasn't happy about that letter to the IOC, and it kind of felt a little bit like it was an attempt to get at the table, and a marketing push. And I don't honestly think it was one of those things that comes around and it's news for a month, and then like me 10 seconds ago, it was like, what are you talking about? Like, we all forgot about that. But well done to you for remembering.
Didn't they publish that as a press release too?
Yeah, I think so.
So that, like, I mean, that's just a way of getting eyeballs on your brand and for a hot set, like Aaron said. There's nothing real there. There's no substance there. That's just about like, let's keep Merrell top of mind for this Olympic cycle, or like this little month that this is happening, and we can be the cool people in trail that's pushing the envelope.
Yeah. So guys, that is the end of our favorite athletes and favorite brands. I think that was a fun one. Would love to know what the viewers think. So jump down into the comments, and we're not just YouTube comments now. We're on Spotify, Cave to the Pressure. It's on Apple now as well. So, leave us a rating or whatever. Troy, what do you do on Apple? Do you leave ratings? Do you leave
Ratings
reviews?
And reviews, man. Drop those reviews. Give us those five stars only.
Yeah, do all that stuff. Guys, thanks for joining us. Viewers, get over to Instagram, get on the Christmas giveaway, and we'll send you some stuff. And have a great Christmas, and we will see you next year.